Good morning. Glad to be with you here on this Friday, talking to you about you and your business. As always, we have a lot to cover. I want to go straight to one of my contributors, Paul Carroll. He's with a great company called Efficient Wealth Management, which I think has a fascinating story, and I really enjoy the guests that you bring on. Before you introduce your guest, Paul, why don't you tell us a little bit more about Efficient Wealth Management? And want to remind a listener they can also check them out at efficientwealthmanagement.com. Go ahead, tell us your story and introduce your guest today.
Well, good morning, Kevin, and Happy New Year. It's the first time I think we've talked this year.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Thank you. Efficient Wealth Management is a boutique wealth management firm based here in the Woodlands, Texas. And what we've done is we've adopted a consultative approach working with a team of experts to help energy executives make exploration optional. And today we're interviewing and introducing Jan Sieving. She's the Vice President of, Jan, tell us about yourself.
I'm the Vice President of Public Affairs for a company called Repsol. And Repsol is a multinational major oil company. It's headquartered in Madrid, Spain, and we have our regional headquarters in the Woodlands, Texas, just north of Houston.
Awesome. And what is your position with the company again?
Vice President of Public Affairs.
Wow. Well, we're delighted to have you on the program. Go ahead, Paul.
Well, great. Now, how long has Repsol been in the Woodlands, Jan?
Since about 2002, 2003, I believe. It's interesting. It's actually not very interesting. We acquired a company that had acquired a company that had an office here, so then Repsol took it over. But since that time, we have just really grown exponentially. I think in 2006, there were less than 100 employees, and at the end of 2013, we had more than 500, and we're expecting to increase that number to about 700 by the end of 2016. So really, really strong growth here.
How many employees does the company have internationally?
Yeah, Repsol, anyone that's been to Spain has seen a Repsol gas station on every corner. Not here in the U.S., but it's a very large company in Spain, and in fact is in the downstream sector in Spain and the leading refiner there. Worldwide, we have about 25,000 employees.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Paul.
But Repsol here in the United States, are you focused on the upstream exploration or downstream?
Exactly.
What is the focus?
Upstream and exploration and production. Just to give you a quick glance, we have a non-operated production in the Gulf of Mexico. We're a partner in the Shenzi field, and we're exploring in Alaska. I'll talk a bit about that in a minute. It's quite interesting what's going on up there. And then we have some production in some unconventional fields in Kansas and Oklahoma.
Yeah, talk about what's going on in Alaska.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We've been up there the past 3 years, and last year we drilled 3 exploration wells and had a good discovery with wells with 3 of our wells. So we're preparing 3 new exploration wells this year. It's quite interesting, the operations on the North Slope. It's in a remote area up there, and you can only drill in the winter when it's frozen because the tundra is, very sensitive in the summertime. So we start building the ice roads, which everyone's seen from the TV shows. We build them in October, November, December. We start mobilizing the rigs in January, February. We spud the wells in February. We drill by April 15th. So it just gives you a couple months. By April 15th, by state mandate, you can no longer drill for hydrocarbons. So you start demobilizing, and you have to get those rigs off the ice before the spring thaw. So it's a really short window up there, and there is just there's not much margin for extending it or, hey, we had weather problems, this is a little bit delayed. It's really tight, and of course the temperatures up there are extreme. I was up there last year and had my own personal low of negative 40 degrees.
Wow.
And so it's extreme. I mean, it's really extreme conditions to operate the equipment. Equipment doesn't operate all that well at those anything colder than that. So they have some limitations on when they can operate.
Yeah, I grew up in Detroit, but that's even crazy by Detroit measures.
No, it is crazy temperatures. Believe me, we do not stay outside long. And, all the cars have the batteries that are plugged in, or otherwise the engine blocks freeze. And, it's just a really remote location. To give you an example, I'm not going to the North Slope, but I'm going to Anchorage next week. So it's about a 4 or 5 hour flight to Seattle, another 4 to Anchorage. From Anchorage, you get on a private plane to go up to the North Slope, and then it's about 2.5 hours. And then it's, an hour or two to drive out on the ice roads to the field. So, it's really remote.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead there, Paul.
Well, that's absolutely fascinating. And, of course, minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit is the same as minus 40 Celsius.
That is exactly where they intersect. Yeah, that's exactly right, of course.
So tell me, with the growth in the woodlands, it sounds like you got here by accident because of the mergers and acquisitions. With the growth here in the woodland that's going on, is that creating problems for Repsol in terms of the cost and even just finding office space?
Well, we might have gotten here by accident, but we stayed intentionally, and we're expanding intentionally. The Woodlands and Texas in general is a fabulous place to do business. We're actually building a new headquarters building right on Lake Woodlands, and we're recruiting like crazy, which I'll talk about in a minute. But, yeah, we're building a new 8-story building that will occupy at the end of this year. And so, no, we haven't had trouble finding space, although we know that, the office space can be tight, but we're expanding, and I'll talk just a minute about our recruiting. We need to fill a scheduled 107 positions this year. That is across the board in all disciplines, geosciences, engineering, and then, accounting, drilling, HR, positions like that. So anyone interested? Our website is Repsol.com, Repsol.com, but we're in the process of transitioning our recruitment and our candidates to our U.S. page, which is under construction. So people can send resumes to Repsol USA Jobs at Repsol.com.
Wow, that's I'm glad to know. I'll sign up right after the show because looking at your website, you're an incredible company to be involved with. Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, in fact, I was noticing they do have that careers tab on their website. Well, that's fascinating. Now, did you already own the land on Lake Woodlands, or is this part of the purchase of the package?
So we are working with a developer that had space available, and we took the whole building, and it's funny, we're filling it up quite quickly. And, the Woodlands is a great place to work and live. It's just ideal. In fact, I do work and live here. So for anyone in the Woodlands or North Houston that is sick and tired of that commute, come on up to Repsol. I thought it might be funny to put a billboard on the freeway just as you're exiting and said, if you worked at Repsol, you'd be home by now.
There you go. That's a great sign. Hey, I appreciate both of you being on today. By the way, I do want to mention again, Paul Carroll, Efficient Wealth Management. He's a regular feature here on The Price of Business. And our guest today, and she, of course, is with Repsol, and that's REPSOL.com. And I want to thank both Paul and Jan for being with us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, when we come back, much more for you. I do want to remind you, best content here shows up over there at USADailyReview.com, and you're listening to The Price of Business.